Welcome to another episode of Legendary Leaders. I am super happy to have you joining me today. Today we are talking about the topic or the idea that if you want better answers, you have to ask better questions, right? Now maybe you've heard that, but let's go ahead and talk about what that really means. How do you apply that if you're taking yourself and you're moving from the corporate space into the entrepreneurial space, and then eventually, right, and hopefully not too long, not too many years down the road, you move from part-time entrepreneur to full-time entrepreneur, and you move out of the corporate world altogether. How do you do that? Well, I believe that one of the ways that you do that is that you ask better questions. Because as entrepreneurs, we're constantly growing and changing. We have to. We have to grow and become the woman that can run that $1 million business, right? Now, we can run $1 million, multi-million dollar, even $1 billion businesses for someone else in the corporate world, but running our own businesses is something else entirely, right? We have to learn all of the different things that in the corporate world, there were other people doing. And so the way that we get there is by asking better questions. So let me tell you a little story. If you have kids, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about as I walk you through this situation. So I have a son, he is 10, he's in the 5th grade, and one of the things that he has to do is they're supposed to read for 20 minutes. And I have 3 children. My middle child loves to read. She will read rather than watch TV, which is great, right? But my son, on the other hand, he would much rather do anything but read. He just hasn't found that book or those series or that type of fiction that really connects with him or that he connects with. And so through school, he does have to read 20 minutes. And in reading 20 minutes, they used to in the past have to keep it on a log. Well, and that was, through 4th grade. Well, now in 5th grade, what he has to do is he has to play some sort of bingo game. And it's like a bingo card. And he gets to mark off a square for each type of book that he's read. Well, he has 1 square left. And it's taking him a while to even get to the 1 square. But he's got 1 square left. And what he has to do is he has to read a science fiction book. And so I keep checking on him. And, I'm like, hey, son, have you read your last book? Where are you on the bingo sheet? We've got to get it turned in. Talk to me about how you're doing. And so he's like, well, I think this book that I have is going to work. I'm like, well, you think or you know, right? Now, how many of you that are parents have that conversation? You think or you know? Because we need to know, right? We need to know this is the path you need to go down. Yeah, Mom, you're right. I'm like, okay, well, how can you solve that problem? What could you do to find the answer as opposed to reading a book that may not help you accomplish your goal? Well, and he thinks and he goes into this thought for a few minutes. I'm like, well, son, there's got to be an answer. It's not that hard. Talk to me. What's going on? And he's like, well, I guess I could ask the teacher. Perfect. Let's go ask the teacher. So he's supposed to ask the teacher. 2 weeks go by and I check on him. Oh, I forgot. I've got to ask my teacher. Okay, go ask your teacher. He eventually asks the teacher. What does the teacher come back and say? Well, I don't know. I don't know that it'll apply. Well, come to find out, he was asking his language arts teacher, and this is through his library teacher. And so he couldn't get his library teacher. And so I'm like, well, son, if you can't figure that out, well, what's another way you could solve the problem? What else could you do? And he's like, well, I guess I could do this. And he just grabs his computer and he Googles it. He Googles the book that he's reading right now, that he's been reading for about 2 weeks, hoping that this book was going to be the answer to his science fiction bingo square. And he just grabs his computer and Googles and says, what's the genre of this book? And he types in the title. Well, it comes back that it's adventure. It's not science fiction. I'm like, well, there you go. You knew how to solve that problem all along. You know how to Google and figure out the genre of books. So you solved the problem. That's great. That's a great job. Now, how do we solve the problem of finding the book that you need? And so then he goes through and he Googles and he finds some titles that are science fiction and we order him one and now he's reading it. But he spent 2 weeks reading a book he was hoping was going to be the answer instead of actually just figuring out how to solve the problem. What question did he need to have to ask, right? He needed to ask the question, what's the genre? And then he needed to figure out who to ask it to. And so he kept trying to figure out the question and how to get the answer. And I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we go through that same cycle. We have to serve our customers. But many times what happens is we're asking them for feedback or we're asking them to let us help them solve a problem that's 5 steps down the road from where they actually are. And so we're putting out products we're putting out services, we're trying to get feedback, we're trying to build connection, whatever it is, and we're asking our customers to connect with us at a certain point. But we're here, and a lot of our customers are here. And so we're asking the wrong question. We're solving the wrong problem. We're trying to meet them where we are instead of meeting them where they are. And that's what I want you to think about today. What questions are you asking yourself? What questions are you asking your customer? How are you connecting with them? And are there better questions that you can ask? Are there better ways that you can serve them? Step back and look at what you're doing right now in your business. If you're just getting started, this is a great place to start. Where are you going to start? Is it the right place? Are you meeting your customer where they are? Are you figuring out all the tools that you need? Are you asking the right people the right questions? That's so important, right? Don't go ask someone who's not your customer what they want, because you're going to get the wrong answer. It's the wrong question to the wrong person, and it's going to give you the wrong answer. So questions are powerful. You will get better answers if you ask better questions. And I'll put a caveat on that and say you're going to ask better questions and get better answers, not only with the question, but asking it to the right person or people. So that's your challenge for the day. I want you to go think about, are you asking basic questions and getting basic answers and then wondering why your business isn't moving forward or why you're not able to grow and move your business forward? Think through that. Solve the problem. Go ask tougher questions to move yourself and your business forward. And as always, go and be legendary.